Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you're a print buyer. What keeps you up at night? Color.
Absolutely.
Absolute, consistent, beautiful color. We're talking brand accuracy that's spot on, neutral grays that don't suddenly look, I don't know, purple,
Mhm.
skin tones that are vibrant and real, not flat or sort of artificial. Your brand recognition, your reputation, it all hinges on getting that color right every single time.
Yeah, no one wants to see their logo looking off color. It just screams low quality.
Exactly. And that expectation is huge and absolutely fair. Color is, well, it's probably the most direct visual sign of quality in print, wouldn't you say? Customers have incredibly high standards.
They really do. And then you throw in the reality facing a lot of print shops right now.
Which is
Significant labor shortages and, frankly, sky-high turnover rates.
some shops seeing 50% or more annually. That's huge. Half your team potentially leaving in a year.
It's a massive challenge.
Yep.
And that kind of churn creates a real problem because, let's face it, color management and control isn't simple stuff.
No, definitely not.
It requires specific know-how. So when your experienced people walk out the door, that expertise goes with them. Training new operators on complex color workflows. That takes time. It's challenging, assuming you can even find people to hire.
Right, so you've got these demanding customer expectations for perfect color clashing with, well, a shrinking pool of experienced staff and the sheer complexity of doing color manually.
Precisely.
Which brings us right to the core question for this deep dive today. In this environment, with these challenges, can getting genuinely good color actually be automatic, simplified?
It's a critical question for the industry, absolutely.
So, our mission today is to dive into these sources and really understand how automation is being presented as the answer to these big color challenges in print. Let's get into it.
Sounds like a plan. And I think to understand how automation helps, we first need to look at why Fiery has that reputation for great color. What's their foundation built on?
Good point. They are definitely seen as a leader, so what's behind that perception?
A few key things jump out. First, just their history. Decades of experience working with a huge range of printer brands, toner, inkjet, basically everything.
Okay, so they're not tied to just one technology.
No, and that's important. They aim for a unified color experience, even if you have different kinds of presses in your shop. That broad perspective is pretty valuable.
Makes sense. Experience across the board. What else?
They combine that with a really deep dedication to the science of color. It's not just about licensing tech from someone else.
Yeah.
They actually have their own dedicated team of color scientists developing proprietary algorithms, their own color technology, and they're constantly investing in innovation there.
So they're building the engine themselves, not just bolting on someone else's.
Exactly. And this proprietary tech leads to something the sources really emphasize: deep integration into the Fiery Digital front end, the DFE.
Okay, why is that integration so important?
Well, think about the alternative, like using separate third-party color tools. Often that means exporting data, opening another application, doing manual steps, saving, importing back.
Right, lots of steps.
Lots of steps. And every single handoff, every manual tweak is a potential place to make a mistake.
Which, going back to that high turnover and less experienced staff, sounds pretty risky.
It's incredibly risky. And that's where the integration shines. Because the color science is inside the DFE, it can talk directly to the printer and back again.
Okay, bidirectional communication.
Yes. It automatically reads the correct printer settings, it generates things like calibrations and profiles and even spot color recipes using those settings, and then installs them correctly. It's seamless.
So it cuts out the manual steps and the potential for error, and probably speeds things up too.
Definitely speeds things up and dramatically reduces complexity. It's about error avoidance and faster production.
So integration isn't just a nice to have, it's actually critical for making things simpler and more reliable.
That's the argument. It's what lets them manage the whole spectrum from hitting super precise color standards to really pushing the vibrancy a press can achieve.
Okay.
Great color isn't only about the profile. It's also about how the PDF file itself is interpreted.
Ah, okay, so the input file matters just as much.
Critically. You could have the world's best color management, but if the DFE misunderstands something in the PDF, maybe fonts, transparencies, how overprints work, or even just the name of a spot color.
You won't get what you expect on paper.
Exactly. So they talk about leveraging the Adobe PDF print engine, which is sort of the industry standard, plus tools within the Fiery DFE itself, like Fiery Job Expert, to pre-flight the job, detect potential issues, and optimize how that PDF is understood before it even gets to the color processing stage.
So it's a kind of end-to-end view, from file interpretation through to final color.
That's the idea, an end-to-end approach.
Okay, that paints a good picture of their foundation.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that digital color management and control are just inherently complex. Why is that? What makes it so tricky?
First, just the sheer number of variables involved.
Like what?
Different print technologies, right?
Right.
Toner behaves differently from inkjet. Then you have all the different ink and toner formulations. And literally thousands of different types of media paper, synthetics, whatever, and each one interacts with color in its own way.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot to juggle. It's definitely not one size fits all.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Second, getting all those variables to play nicely together and produce consistent, predictable color. That takes a serious amount of underlying science. It's not just eyeballing it.
Definitely more involved than just clicking print.
Way more. And the third point, which is interesting, is that there isn't just one single goal for great color.
What do you mean?
Well, sometimes the absolute top priority is hitting a really strict industry standard, like G7, which focuses on neutral gray balance and predictable tone, or maybe it's matching a very specific corporate brand color down to the decimal point.
Right, accuracy above all else.
But other times, the goal might be different. Maybe you want the image to just pop, be as vibrant and eye-catching as possible, really pushing the printer's color gamut to the max.
So vibrancy over strict accuracy in that case.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And achieving those different goals requires different approaches, different technical skills, which kind of explains why having that dedicated team of color scientists is pretty important.
That distinction in goals is really key. And all this complexity, I guess, is why it's so important to differentiate between color management and color control, right? They aren't the same thing.
But absolutely not.
Yeah.
When we talk about color management, creating calibrations, building profiles, making optimizations, we're essentially taking a snapshot in time.
Oh.
You're characterizing a specific printer with specific media and ink right at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you print right after you do that, yeah, it usually looks great.
A snapshot, that makes sense, capturing the current state.
But the big problem, especially in shops relying on manual processes, is treating that management step like a one-and-done thing.
You profile it once and assume you're good forever.
Exactly. They create the profile, maybe stick it on a shelf and think, job done. This is actually where the ongoing challenge really starts.
Okay, so why is that ongoing process, color control, so essential then? What changes?
Because basically everything changes. The printing environment isn't static. Temperature fluctuates. Humidity changes day to day, season to season.
Right.
And the printer itself drifts. Components wear. Ink batches might have tiny variations. Toner properties can change slightly. It all drifts over time as the machine is used.
Okay, that's a great analogy, like a car needing regular tune-ups to keep running well. You don't just build it and then ignore it.
Exactly that analogy. So color control is the continuous process after you've done the initial profiling. It's about making sure that despite all these changing variables, you can always get back to that original, known, calibrated state.
How do you do that?
It involves regularly verifying the printer's performance, basically asking, is it still printing color within the acceptable limits we defined? And if it's not,
You fix it.
you take corrective action to bring it back into line.
And this is absolutely critical for print buyers, right? They expect the job they reprint 6 months from now to match the one they got today.
Absolutely non-negotiable for most buyers. Delivering that kind of long-term consistency is, well, it's practically impossible without a solid process for color control.
Okay, so it really is a two-step dance. First, get to great color. And second, have a system to keep it great consistently.
Step 1, characterize a combination, printer, media, ink, toner. That's the color management part.
Right.
Step 2, establish a robust color control process to maintain it.
So how does that color control piece actually work in practice day to day?
A core part of it is regular verification. You print some kind of standard color chart or maybe a smaller control wedge, and you measure it.
With a spectrophotometer or a similar device?
Exactly. And that measurement tells you if the printer is still performing within the defined tolerances. Is it meeting the standard or a custom target you set? You get a simple pass or fail.
Okay, and if it fails, what happens then?
If the result is fail, meaning the color has drifted too much, then you need to take corrective action. That action might be a simple recalibration or maybe something else depending on the system, but the goal is to bring the printer back to a past state.
And doing these checks consistently is the key.
That's the idea. Consistent verification ensures predictable, high-quality output that stays stable over the long haul.
Got it. And the sources mention specific Fiery tools for this. Step 1. Fiery Color Profiler Suite, that gets you to great color.
Right, that's for the initial characterization, profiling, optimization.
And step 2? Fiery Color Guard, that's the tool that keeps it there, doing the ongoing verification and correction loop.
That's how the products map to the process, yes. And the sources also introduced a pretty helpful framework for thinking about all the pieces involved in digital color. They call it the 6 C's of color management.
The 6 C's, okay, that sounds like a good way to break down something this complex. Let's quickly run through those.
Sure. The first C is consistency. This is really foundational. It's about the inherent stability and quality of the printer itself, the media you're using, the ink or toner quality. It also includes things like built-in self-calibrating features some presses have. It's about getting the printer into a known, sort of defined state.
Okay, consistency is the stable base to build on.
Exactly. Next is calibration. This takes that consistent base and gets the specific combination printer, media, ink into a predictable, targeted state that you can aim for repeatedly.
That characterization.
Yeah.
That's creating the profile, right?
That's it. This C is about accurately describing the color behavior of that specific combination. Are you aiming for pure accuracy? Maximum gamut? Maybe ink savings? The profile captures that.
Gotcha. And conversion?
Conversion is all about translating colors between different color spaces. So taking RGB images from a camera or specific spot colors like Pantone and converting them correctly into the printer's process CMYK space so they print as expected.
Okay. Then control, which we just spent time on the ongoing checks and fixes.
Right. Control is that continuous effort, the verification and correction loop to keep the printer performing in that targeted state, staying in the, the green zone.
Makes sense. And the last C is conformance.
Conformance is super important and ties back to that PDF interpretation we talked about earlier. It's about ensuring the integrity of the actual job file. Are the fonts embedded correctly? Are objects tagged right? How are transparencies and overprints handled? Are spot colors named exactly right? Making sure the DFE understands the incoming PDF correctly is absolutely essential for the color to come out right.
And the sources showed how Fiery's various tools kind of map across these different C's.
They did. Consistency, well, that depends a lot on the press itself. But calibration, characterization, and conversion, those are handled primarily within the Fiery DFE or using Fiery Color Profiler Suite.
Okay.
Control is the domain of Fiery Color Guard. And conformance is addressed through things like working with industry groups on PDF standards like the Gantt Work Group, plus tools within the DFE to ensure proper interpretation. It gives you a nice holistic view of the whole workflow.
That framework really does help connect the dots. Now let's circle back to color control for a minute. You stressed how manual it often is today. Can you spell out the specific challenges of doing it manually, especially thinking about that labor shortage problem we started with?
Yeah, this is where those initial challenges really bite.
Yeah.
If your press doesn't have an inline measurement device built right in, and many don't, doing color control manually means grabbing a handheld spectrophotometer or maybe an offline chart scanner. So you have to physically print a test chart, pull it off the press, take it over to the measurement device, measure it, compare the results against your target.
And all that time, the press is sitting idle, not making money.
Exactly. It means stopping or pausing production on what's usually a very expensive piece of equipment. And this is where the human factor, made worse by staff shortages and high turnover, really hurts.
How so?
Busy press operators, understandably, have very little interest in stopping everything to run these manual, potentially fiddly color checks.
Yeah, I could see that.
Unless there's really strong discipline or maybe automated reminders, these checks are often the very first tasks to get pushed aside. They get deferred to when I have free time, which, let's be honest, in a busy, profitable print shop, basically never happens.
So the verifications get skipped, the color starts to drift slowly but surely, and then, boom, you get that angry call from a print buyer about inconsistent color.
That's the typical scenario. And it's compounded by the technical complexity for the operator who does try to do the check. Interpreting those measurement results isn't always straightforward. Like, okay, the check failed. Why? Does it just need a simple recalibration? Or is there something more serious going on? Maybe a mechanical issue with the press starting to show up in the color? It's really hard for someone without deep color expertise to accurately diagnose the root cause and know the right fix.
Yeah, that requires real knowledge. And I guess that's where software that could potentially diagnose and fix the issue automatically would be a huge advantage.
It really changes the game. It takes color control from being this difficult, error-prone, often skip manual chore and turns it into something reliable, actionable, and well-automated. Which brings us right back to the core question again.
Can we actually achieve good color with minimal or maybe even zero operator involvement? Can it truly be touchless?
Can touchless color be a reality? This is exactly where the technology really comes into play, especially when you pair it with those inline measurement instruments built into modern presses.
Okay, the inline spectros.
Right. Because the Fiery software can directly control these instruments, a lot of these complex color management and control tasks can actually be done automatically without the operator needing to manually intervene at all.
Okay, so touchless essentially means automating these steps, taking the burden off the operator.
That's the essence of it. Offloading the technical complexity from the person onto the software and the integrated hardware. First is something they call one-step color management.
One-step color management. Tell me about that. How does it simplify the setup phase?
It dramatically simplifies getting set up for, say, a new type of paper or just reprofiling an existing one if you have that connected inline instrument. The operator literally just loads the new media into the tray, right-clicks on that tray in the Fiery software interface, selects the inline instrument from a list, and clicks Next. That's basically it.
And then what happens?
Then the Fiery DFE just takes over completely. It automatically prints the necessary color charts, runs them through the inline instrument, creates a custom calibration, and this is cool. It can include G7 compliance automatically if that's what you need.
Which is a big deal, G7 compliance.
Huge deal for neutral appearance, yeah.
Then it generates the optimized ICC profile for that specific media, installs it correctly in the system, and makes it immediately available for use in jobs.
Wow. So the operator's involvement is what? Load the paper and make 2 clicks.
Pretty much just that. You can literally start the process, walk away, go grab a coffee, come back a few minutes later, and that printer media combo is fully calibrated, profiled, and ready for production quality work.
That removes a massive amount of complexity and potential for error right there. Absolutely. It's a direct answer to that expertise gap we talked about, caused by high turnover.
Okay, that's a huge leap in simplifying the initial setup, the management part. What about the ongoing control? How does that become automatic?
So that's handled by what they call Fiery Automatic Color Control, and it leverages their cloud-based platform, Fiery Color Guard.
Okay, Color Guard again. How does it automate control?
The system lets you schedule regular, automatic verifications for specific printer and media combinations. You can set them up to run at defined times, maybe first thing every morning before production starts, or perhaps after a shift change. You can even have it automatically print some warm-up pages first if the press needs it.
And assuming the press has that inline instrument, does the whole verification and correction cycle happen automatically too?
That's the key part. If the press hardware supports it, yes. The scheduled check kicks off, maybe starting with a self-calibration routine run by the press itself. Then the system automatically prints the control wedge or chart and measures it using the inline instrument.
Yeah.
If the results come back as passed, great. Production just carries on as normal. But here's the really powerful bit. If the check comes back, failed.
Meaning the color has drifted out of tolerance.
Exactly. If it fails, the system doesn't just flag it. It automatically triggers first maybe a second press self-calibration, if the hardware supports that, followed immediately by a Fiery recalibration process. The whole goal is to automatically bring the color back into the acceptable tolerance range.
Oh, so if the color drifts, the system doesn't just tell you, it actively tries to fix it, all by itself, no operator needed.
The failed state gets automatically corrected back to a passed state, often without the operator even needing to know it happened, let alone figure out what corrective action was required.
That's like having a little color expert living inside the machine, constantly monitoring and tweaking.
That's a great way to put it, just like the analogy suggests. And it directly tackles those big problems of manual checks being skipped because they're a hassle and operators maybe not having the expertise to diagnose or fix drift when it happens. And lets shops genuinely improve their quality and consistency.
Which ultimately helps them stand out to buyers and build that loyalty.
Exactly. That's the end goal.
Now, we can't forget about brand colors. You mentioned them earlier. They're often the most critical colors for print buyers. How does automation help manage those vital spot colors?
Yeah, brand colors are absolutely paramount. And Fiery has a specific tool for this called Spot Pro. Spot Pro is basically your command center for managing all those critical brand colors.
Whether they're custom corporate colors or standard libraries like Pantone.
Exactly, all of them.
So what can you do in Spot Pro?
You can manually fine-tune the CMYK recipes if needed. You can use visual tools that show you variations around a color to help you pick the best match visually.
Mm-hmm.
But crucially, you can also optimize those spot colors using measurement instruments.
Including those inline instruments we've been talking about.
Yes, including the inline ones. It uses their Fiery Edge profiling technology to figure out the best possible recipe to achieve the closest match for that specific spot color on that specific media, using that specific printer.
Okay, so you get the best possible match. How does that optimization then feed into the whole automation picture?
This is where it connects back to ColorGuard. Once you've optimized a critical spot color for a particular media, you can send that precise color target, the lab value you achieve, directly into the Fiery ColorGuard cloud platform.
Ah, okay.
And once it's in ColorGuard, you can then automatically create verification schedules specifically for those exact spot colors.
So you're not just verifying the overall process color stability, you can set up automated checks just for, say, Coca-Cola Red or Tiffany Blue.
Precisely. You can use that same automated verification system, powered by the inline instrument, to constantly monitor whether those absolutely critical brand colors are staying within tolerance day after day, shift after shift.
With minimal effort from the staff because it's automated.
Minimal ongoing effort. It adds another really important layer of automated quality assurance that directly addresses one of the biggest concerns for print buyers.
This definitely all points towards color management and control becoming significantly more automated. Which, brings us right back to that initial question we posed. Will good color ever be fully automatic?
Well, based on what Fiery describes in this material, the level of automation possible today is already incredibly high, especially with the right setup.
The integrated DFE, the inline instrument.
Exactly. And the clear direction is towards even more touchless capabilities. They seem committed to pushing that boundary further.
So the trend is definitely towards taking more tasks off the operator's plate?
Yes. The explicit goal seems to be offloading as many of those technical, time-consuming, expertise-dependent color tasks as possible from the human operator and letting the DFE and the cloud systems manage them automatically.
Which frees up the operator to do other valuable things.
Right. Focus on job setup, quality control, keeping production flowing.
Mm-hmm.
They also hinted at leveraging all the data collected in the cloud.
From ColorGuard.
Yeah. Using that data to get smarter about performance. Like, understanding how long a specific printer and media combination typically stays stable before it starts to drift.
Ah, so you could use that insight to maybe adjust the frequency of the automated checks, make the schedule more intelligent.
Exactly. Use historical performance data to optimize the automated processes themselves.
So it seems like even with all the complexities and variables in real-world printing, a really robust software solution, especially when tightly coupled with inline measurement hardware, truly does unlock some unprecedented levels of automation in color management and control.
That's definitely the picture painted by these sources, and they emphasize that recent updates show just how far this automation capability has already come.
Okay, so let's circle back and try to summarize the answer to our big question. Can good color be automatic? Based on this deep dive into the Fiery material, what's the main takeaway?
I think the core takeaway is, yes, with caveats, good color can be automatic, or at least highly automated, if you have the right combination of technology in place.
Meaning that intelligent software, deeply integrated with capable press hardware, ideally featuring those inline measurement tools.
That seems to be the key recipe.
And what's the practical advice that comes out of this for listeners?
Really inform yourself. Understand the specific capabilities of the press technology and the software, especially the DFE, that you either have currently or are thinking about investing in. Knowing what level of automation is actually possible with your setup is crucial for streamlining your workflow and tackling those labor and expertise challenges head-on.
But it sounds like there are resources to help people make sense of it all.
For sure. The sources specifically point back to that Fiery 6Cs framework as a helpful way to structure your thinking. And they mention things like short videos, e-learning courses being available that break down the different steps, calibration, characterization, control, etc., why each one matters, and how the technology fits into that framework.
That's good practical guidance. Okay, and finally, as always, something to leave you, our listener, pondering after this deep dive, building on everything we've discussed.
Okay, here's one. If achieving and controlling accurate, consistent color Arguably one of the most skill-intensive parts of printing is becoming increasingly automated. What does this fundamental shift really mean for the future role of the human print operator?
Yeah, how does this level of automation change the very nature of the expertise that's going to be needed in a print shop moving forward? What skills become more valuable and which become less critical?
Something to think about.